And the first item on our agenda is the Woodbridge Board of Education, and Dr. Guy Stull is here. Good evening.
Good evening, everyone. When you broaden the school's worldview and open it to the world, every person in the school is bound to benefit from it, especially the children. And we had a visit by a delegation of 20 principals from China. Actually, we were selected and asked to host the visit. Unfortunately, it came on a day that we were challenged. There was no heat the day before, and we were trying to get things back to normal. But it took place on a Friday, and what it turned into was an educational forum. There was a very good exchange of ideas and interactions and so on. There was very, very positive reaction from our visitors. And again, we were honored to be selected and asked by a state organization to host the principals. Two of the principals from the group stayed for a one-week residency, and they had a chance to visit classes, see our programs, interact with teachers, faculty, staff, administrators, children. They had a chance to share ideas, to ask questions, and to be asked questions. I was very proud of the fact that in such a short time of notice, the Woodbridge community opened their hearts and their homes to our visitors. The two visitors were hosted by one of our families. None of them spoke Chinese, so that was an interesting situation. And they attended dinner at different households every single night. They had a chance to see what happened on the weekend with our children. They visited soccer games and hockey games, interacted with the children, their parents. They had a tour of Yale. They had an opportunity to view class lessons on election day at school, where they saw the children actively involved in learning how to become good local and national, state and national citizens. They had an opportunity to visit our polls while election was going on and to see what was happening. So it was a good opportunity for open communication. We were open on election day, and it was a powerful day of learning for our children. We were open on Veterans Day, and again, that was another powerful day of learning for our children. The day started with a heartwarming school-wide ceremony. We're thankful the weather cooperated because everyone was gathered in front of the North Building outside. Colonel Joe Hellauer was our keynote speaker, and he established the focus of the day, and the focus of the day was learning the meaning of Veterans Day, as well as the many historical insights and facts associated with the day. There was a Veterans Hall of Honor constructed, which you could come and take a view of it, that has the names of not only the veterans within our school, but family members as well as citizens from Woodbridge. The ceremony, of course, there was our Beecher Road School Band played a number of patriotic songs. Mrs. Prisco personally introduced every single veteran who was in attendance, and there were over a dozen veterans with us on that particular day. And the entire school, all classes wrote thank you letters, which were delivered by Mrs. Prisco personally to the Veterans Hospital in West Haven, and that was very well received. And we're very proud of the fact that the town had a Veterans Day ceremony, again organized by Colonel Hellauer on last Sunday, and some of our children were in attendance. But all of these things, all these efforts, really help our children contribute to our overall goal of developing our children as good local, state, and national, and also global citizens. We're well started on the budget process. The promise that I make to you and to our Board of Education and citizens of Woodbridge is that we are crafting a budget using a zero-based to the extent that we can, that will support an educational mission that will increase the quality, enhance the quality of education at our school. I know that's what the citizens of Woodbridge want. And a budget that will also be mindful of the fact that these are tough economic times. We're very, very proud to have on our school board's finance committee a member of the Board of Selectmen and Board of Finance. We feel we have a winning team, that we're transparent with our proposals, and there's a free flow of ideas. And again, all our ideas and efforts have those two motives in mind: higher quality education and respect for our taxpayers. I'll end by saying that I participated at many of the, I want to thank the first selectmen and the members of the crisis management team. I participated in a number of the daily meetings that took place and saw what happened, and it just made me proud to be part of the town that cares so much about its citizens and works so well together as a team. And it certainly is a winning team. So thank you very much.
Okay, and thank you, Dr. Stoll, for putting on that Veterans Day ceremony on Monday, and Dr. Stoll was also at our Veterans Day celebration on Sunday, so thank you for that. Anyone have any comments or questions? Okay. The next item on our agenda is the review of Hurricane Sandy, and we have joining us tonight our representatives from UI, our liaison, Vinnie Lazaro and Marissa Westbrook, as well as Michael Stein. We have our Chief of Police, Gene Marcucci, and Deputy Chief Ray Stewart. We have our Fire Chief, Sean Rowland, our Public Works Director, Warren Connors, and last but not least, Mary Ellen LaRocca, our Human Services Director. And I can just say, from my standpoint, we met every day, Friday and Sunday before the storm, and then Monday through Friday, and I guess through Saturday, actually, as a result of the storm. And the cooperation between all our town departments, I think, was excellent. And we are fortunate to have Mr. Lazaro, who's in front of you today, to be our liaison, because he kept us informed about what the outages were and how they could be addressed appropriately, and worked well with all our town departments. So on behalf of the residents of Woodbridge, I want to thank all of you for your efforts. And Vinnie, if you want to make a few statements or whatever.
Sure. Thank you, Ed. Good evening, everybody. Thank you for having UI here and letting us address the board. Hope you don't mind if I look at my notes. The teleprompter didn't arrive. Okay.
Is there power?
You got to start that way. Okay, so I'm Vinnie Lazaro, Marissa Westbrook, Mike Stein, UI people here. Marissa and I actually worked the storm. First of all, I'd like to thank everybody at the EOC for their partnership, hard work, and understanding and patience throughout the storm. As Ed mentioned, it went really well in our town. Marissa and I and Mike actually are all residents here too. So not only do we work here, but we actually live here too. My objective tonight is to give everybody a high-level overview of how UI attacks a storm from the planning phase to completion, and in particular how this process affected Woodbridge. Safety is always our #1 priority. Everyone has to go home at night, and that's not only the UI people, but that's the public works people, the police, the fire, everybody involved. So that is always #1, and we always keep that in our minds. Phase 1 is preparation. We actually started to, we put our emergency preparation plan in effect October 22nd, which is the Monday before the storm actually started. What this is a plan, and we have different levels. As the week progressed, this became a level 5 storm, which is our highest level. We expect catastrophic flooding, winds above 75 miles an hour, gusts greater than 50% of our outages. In fact, we figure roughly 225,000 outages we'll have at that level storm. There's all kinds of details involved there. I'm not going to go through all of them. 8 substations, we know how many poles and wire, and that's what we need to prepare for. So we have those resources and that equipment on site for that storm at that level. Okay, we started to arrange for tree crews and line crews, construction crews, and they came far away as Texas and Canada. Now they were on their way before the storm actually started, so that when we get going and after the storm leaves, we can start right away. We actually met with Ed and his team on Sunday before the storm here, just to make sure everything was the way it was supposed to. Okay, the Woodbridge response. Storm, of course, happened that Monday. On Tuesday morning, we had approximately 159,000 customers without electricity in UI. A lot of these numbers, I'm not going to give a lot of numbers because the numbers haven't been completely verified for everything, so we want to keep the numbers separate. We use a lot of percentages, okay? This number fluctuated throughout the storm. In Woodbridge, on that first day, we had at least 70% of our customers out. Probably a little higher, as I originally reported, but we want to stick to that number. So 70% of the people were out. Just to give you a little reference, in Bridgeport, there was 71% of the people out. Fairfield, 70%. Milford, 50%. And Orange had 56%. And why I bring that up is the way we restore people, we do the largest numbers first. So just as a level setting. And of course, we work to get as many customers on as quickly as possible. After the storm passes, we go into the assessment phase. That's the next 48 hours. That doesn't mean we don't do any work, but we have people assessing what's down, how many trees are down, how many poles are down, how much line wire we need in all the towns. We also started this time with what we call a make safe crew, and that was a line truck and with 2 linemen, and what they would do is they would make everything safe. The roads, the wires, anything that was live, they would de-energize. I believe that worked very well. Every morning we got together, the whole team was there, Ed was there, Gene and Ray, Sean, Warren, and we put together a list of where we needed to go and what we needed to make safe. We also started working on the top 10 locations that the town has identified. Town Hall, Police Department, Firehouse, Beecher Road School, Amity High School, to get those on. Those are the first priorities, and we work on those first. We actually started that, and on that Tuesday, we had those assessing crews in, and we actually had construction crews in to start the work. Phase 3, restoration. As we started that, we had a minimum of 6 restoration crews and 2 tree crews pretty much every day. Now, we had added resources too, but those were dedicated for us. Our goal was to get 95% of our customers on by Monday at 11:59 p.m. I say that 11:59 because when we said 12 o'clock, that went to 12 noon, and it was really 12 midnight. We met that goal actually on Sunday, and 8 days after the storm, we had 99% of our customers back. Overall, we did approximately 280,000 outages. We actually restored those. One thing I didn't mention, when in that level 5, we expected not to have everybody back until anywhere between 9 and 11 days. So we actually beat our target for that. After we get everybody on, it still doesn't end really there. Even today, we have assessors out looking to see if there's any trees that are hanging over, lines that might have still been active but need to be fixed even after the storm. So we'll do that for the next week or so. And if we find something, of course, we do that. One thing I'd like to mention too is the teamwork. The police department, Chief G. Marcucci and Ray Stewart, very excellent to work with. Part of the reason things work so well here in Woodbridge is everybody works together. Sean Rowland and the volunteer firemen did a great job. They helped clean streets. They did, to me, above and beyond. They helped the restoration effort. Warren Connors and Carl Quist and the Public Works, again, out cutting trees. As soon as they knew it was safe, they were out there. Everyone worked together. Mariella LaRocca and the Human Resources actually helped with all the town residents. Without electricity, as we all know, we have no water, we have nothing. Just helping the people who needed it was important too. And lastly, but certainly not least, Ed, whose steady, calm leadership during all of this, which we've seen in the past, makes things work a lot better. You don't see that everywhere. That is something that should be commended, and I certainly appreciate that because it really helps to get us back on quicker. So thank you to everybody who contributed, and all of Ed's staff too.
Any comments or questions?
What ongoing program do you have that tries to address the trees that might be weak or in the next storm, etc.? Like, doing regularly to trim trees or get residents to trim trees, etc.?
Okay, we have a regular tree program. In fact, 2 years ago, although we've had these three storms since then, we came through the town and we trimmed, basically, we have 2 feeders that feed the town. We went through the main lines, we went through the side taps. We are restricted. There's only 4 feet above. That's why you see some of the trees, it almost looks like a tunnel. We'd love to do what we call blue sky, but right, so that when you look at the wires, you see blue sky, but we can't do that. There's certain regulations. We have to notify the homeowner. They have to give us permission. A lot of times they don't. We only can go so far off the road, so many feet. A lot of times the dead trees are 10 feet away and we only can go 4 or 5. We try to do our best. If we had more leeway to do that, we certainly would cut more trees and make it so that there might be less problems. But we do go through. We just completed a going through the town, and we will again. That's all regulated through PURA. Like I said, even at the end of the storm now, we're looking, and if there's something that's a problem, we'll go through and take care of it right now. That's part of the storm. Does that answer your question? Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? I just also like to mention that the JCC cooperated with Woodbridge during this storm, had their showers open and charging facilities available. The library had extended hours. The fire department had water available and also responded, helped clearing the roads, but then fed people in Woodbridge on Saturday and Sunday nights. And Mary Ellen LaRocca had the shelter open overnight for several nights and then to 8 p.m. And the police, of course, did their normal good job of providing security. And of course, Warren's crew of Public Works did a great job of getting the streets open and working together. So in the library, if I mentioned the library also had extended hours. So everyone worked together. I think we'll probably have a meeting in the next couple of weeks to see how we can maybe improve whatever we're doing.
Yes.
And an assessment of that. So if anyone has any comments or questions, just thank you all again for your help.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, the next item on our agenda is the Woodbridge Animal Control. And Deputy Police Chief Ray Stewart is here, and we have something in the packet. An update. So,
as required, every quarter we try to give you an update, bringing up to how many impounds, how many calls are taken in each of the 3 towns now that we have Derby on board. Does anybody have any questions about the figures, the totals?
you have the totals broken down for each month from July, August, September, and October?
Correct.
Okay.
And one of the things
By town.
I think when we met the other day, Ed, I think one of the things that's important that we're going to try to implement down at the animal control is some type of file management system. We find it a little bit difficult right now to keep accurate records. Whether they're not punching a card under our police system that gives us a total calls. That's what the calls come from. And this report is accurate based on the information that we actually get out of our police CAD system. So the animal control has to pull a CN or a case number.
Folks behind you can't hear you. Would you speak up a little bit, please? Thank you.
And that's one of the things that we would like to implicate in the very near future is some type of file system. I've talked to the finance director about it, and we're going to spend some money. And the file system, they have it in some of the other towns that have animal control, where and they're still under the guidance of the police department. It's separate from the police reports because there is a security issue there, but it works together. It'll be the one that we're looking at right now is called File Pro. They'll pull their own case numbers down at the animal control, have an accurate number of the work that they do, and then it actually works together with our CAD system. So all they have to do is just come up, download it into our system, and we have the reports, and it just makes it a lot more accurate. As you can see at the end of the report, I tried to indicate, some of the things that we've done down there. We had to replace, because they do laundry as far as cleaning towels and everything, we had to replace the dryer. We've had to do some extensive plumbing down there because of the water system and the well that they work off of. Basically the water is contaminated down there, so it has to be cleaned. We put an osmosis system in there. We found out that there was, through the osmosis system, there was a shortage of water. So what we had to do is we had to redirect it so we could have enough hot water to clean the kennels, especially during the winter months. We fixed the skylight in the main area, and we fixed some of the paving outside the building. It's a work in progress. The building is not in the greatest of shape, but we're trying to keep it usable down there. We provided, what's not in the report, we provided some new lockers down there for the 3 employees. We have 2 full-time employees, K-9 officers, as well as a part-time that cleans the kennels, individual that cleans the kennels, works 5 days a week. The daily operations are still under one of our sergeants, Sergeant Thomas, who answers to the lieutenant. The capital budget, I've gone over it with facilities. It actually isn't going to come under the animal control budget, but some of the things that they're looking to do in the future is we're going to have to replace a roof. There's going to have to be a replacement of a pole out on the street that services the animal control building down there. They're looking to raise the service from 100 amp service to a 200 amp service. There's some issues about the plumbing and the sink inside the building. And it was brought to my attention that they have a problem with, they have some outside runs. When they clean the kennels, they bring the dogs out into these outside runs. And these outside runs have gravel instead of concrete, and we're looking to replace that because, the dog mess gets into the rocks, and it's very difficult to clean that out and really get it sanitary. So because of that, it looks like we're going to probably try to replace that. That's about it. Any questions about the figures, about anything else that's going on down there?
What constitutes a call?
The call is a case number that is pulled from our CAD system at the police department. What we've requested the animal control to do is they would actually have to call in. So let's say they get a call in Derby. It's could be for an impound. What they're required to do is to call over to our police department and request a case number, and that would be the call. That's what we're designating these calls on. And there was some discrepancy from the calls that we had in our police department and the calls that the K-9 officers were saying that they were going on. And that's why I think what we need is this File Pro, or this case management system for them, so they manage it and it's not managed basically through the police department. It's very easy to do it with a police officer on the road, pulls a case number, stops a car, and does what he has to do. But down there's a little bit of, we don't have that continuity within, the same building.
Does a call mean someone always goes out?
Correct. But if they go out and they don't pull a case number from the PD, it's not recorded here. The information that you're getting here is not recorded. So that's why there is a little bit of a discrepancy that we discussed when we met.
Any other questions?
I have a question about the hot water. You have it working now. There is hot water down there.
They have hot water right now, but the hot water is coming directly from the well. The water that they're using through the hot water system.
Filtration or whatever.
We had to put a hot water, we have a hot water heater down there.
Okay.
And the water comes directly, it doesn't go through the osmosis system.
Okay.
So probably in the near future, we're gonna be replacing that hot water because it's so corrosive, the water that comes up.
I thought that osmosis system, is that fairly new? Is it?
Correct. It's like having a water softener system in your house.
But it's not working right now.
It's working. It works.
Okay.
It just was not producing enough hot water
Okay, I understand.
to clean the kennels on a daily basis.
Okay.
So we saw that it wasn't providing enough hot water, and we came up with the solution that if we work the water, because it doesn't have to, the water can be contaminated coming out to clean the kennels.
Right.
Because it's just not, the water's not fit to drink for the dogs or for human consumption, or to wash like the bowls and stuff like that.
So they're not on city, there's no city?
No city water.
It's,
Extremely expensive. We looked into that. Extremely expensive because you have to understand that the water is not out at the street. It's down the road. So it would mean it was in excess of $100,000 to move the water line up so it could be brought into the animal control.
So you guys were without hot water for a while? How long?
Yes, they were working.
Do you know how long it was? It took a while to...
It was a couple months.
Yeah, okay.
If not a little longer. I mean, because we were trying to, it was all a work in progress. It has been down there.
Yeah, I understand there's quite a bit, and it's a good effort on your part and everybody's part to kind of get this moving forward.
Yeah.
I'm pleased.
It is an effort on everybody's part.
Right.
The police, the canine officers, facilities. It's
a work
been a
in
little
progress.
taxing, but it's coming along. I have to agree, it is coming along.
Yeah.
There's a lot of work that still needs to be done down there.
I mentioned to Ed before the meeting that I was going to suggest that maybe if anybody's interested, I'm interested, I'd like to take a tour, because I'd like to see the facility on maybe a Saturday or something, if anybody's interested in just seeing it, because I haven't seen it in a long time, and obviously if I go down there, I'm going to want to take dogs and cats home, so somebody's going to have to go with me, because otherwise it's going to be bad. Stay. But,
No, we definitely could set
we see
that
the
up.
roads before we decide, well, it's already decided, we just go out and look at the roads, Warren takes us out, and I thought maybe it would be interesting to see the facility.
Oh, absolutely. I think it would be
So-
important, especially with some of the repairs that we're going to be requesting in the near future,
Yeah.
that you have an insight of what it looks down and what kind of facility they actually have down there.
So I don't
it
know
might
if
help in your
anybody-
decision.
maybe
So we can arrange it through
Pick a Saturday
Jerry.
and, yeah.
Jerry will,
And I guess you have to notice it or something, that's why I'm asking it,
Yes, I do.
because it's more than one of us, we have to be noticed if we need that.
Do we have to have our shots?
Yeah.
You do.
I just have to stay. And, yeah, make sure I don't.
so
forget.
Jerry will contact
That
her,
would be
we'll
great.
find a convenient
Thanks.
date and we'll do that.
Okay, great.
Okay.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Yeah, just a quick question about the town's relations with both Bethany and Derby. How would you assess that? The relationship is different now. It's not district animal control. They are in effect clients of Woodbridge.
I see
They're
that's
satisfied with the service that
I think they are. I know in fact Derby is. I know the police chief over there is very happy that we've taken it over.
Good.
Because like I said, in any town that has the animal control, there's very few of them that don't have friction in it, because it's a tough, they're working with, a tough environment, dealing with the dogs, dealing with, the rights groups out there and things like that, and it's just, it's tough, and, you have to give credit to the animal control officers as well as the police department to try to make it work.
Well, surely
Yeah, and Bethany has
our
been.
animal control officers have gotten a lot of good publicity over the past 2 or 3 months.
Yes.
They're got a reserved place on the front page of the New Haven Register there for a while, so we thank you all for your efforts, and Carol Lombardi is here tonight, I see.
Oh, I didn't see.
So, okay, any other questions? Okay, thanks a lot.
No, thank you.
Yeah, okay. The next item on our agenda is the Small Cities Grant Update, and Pat Briscoe, who administers that program for the town, is here.
Good evening. I'm Pat Crisco, I'm the tax collector, and I also help to administer the Small Cities Grant. The brochure you have is pretty much what I'm going to go over with you. The town has been awarded our 3rd Small Cities Grant, which we hope to begin administering in January. We filed all the papers, we've done all the paperwork, everything has gone to Hartford. The $300,000 grant comes from HUD, the federal program, to DECD, where they administer it to the towns. We apply for the grant, and the towns that win it, DC administers it. When the town applied for the grant, we hired L. Wagner and Associates through you to help coordinate the program. The $300,000 does not come directly to the town. What happens is, as we do each project and it's approved, and then we apply to them for the amount of money we need, and they send a check, which we then due to the particular home that's being done. A quick summary of the project: applications and all required income info comes to me. I number them according to how they come in. As of today, I have 15 applications. Some of them will not qualify. This is an income-based program, and so I think some people sent the applications in just hoping that it would help. We received a number of calls after the hurricanes, and wasn't called a hurricane, right? The storms. People who realized that maybe they did qualify. What happens first is that once the applications are in, we'll do, Wagner Associates will start it off. We'll do title searches and appraisals on the property, and our contacts will make appointments with the individual homeowners. I usually go out too, just talk to them about what they've requested on the application. It says what kind of projects are you interested in, what do you think you need for your home, and we'll go over it with them. And we'll discuss whether or not they're eligible. Not only do they have to have income eligibility, but they have to have enough equity in their home, because this becomes a mortgage and it can't go over a certain amount of equity. When we see what the needs are, we advertise in the newspapers for bidders to come and look at the property. We schedule a day for that. I go out usually with the Wagner's person who's been assigned to us, and we review the houses with these construction people. Then we set a date for the bid. Bids come back here to me, and we set a time and date that they're to be opened. The homeowners are welcome to come. Usually they don't. We did 15 projects in the first 2 grants we had. I don't think we had anyone come in to see it. According to the rules of DECD and the program itself, we must take the lowest bidder. If for some reason the homeowner decides that the second lowest bidder is the person they really want, and there's a $500 difference or a $1,000 difference, they can pay that difference, and then we will go with the second lowest. Let's see. After the bids have been decided, the contractor has been decided, we usually go back out to the house again, walk around, make sure exactly which things we're going to do, what things have to be done. Sometimes people will say, oh, that they need new windows. If they have a lead-based problem, that also has to be addressed, so it can raise the amount of the contract. Once this has all been decided, we then do the contract. It becomes a mortgage on the home. It's payable. There is never any interest due on it. It's payable back to the town when name changes on the home, someone is deceased, or the house is sold. Something to remember about it is that even though we're administering this program, the contract is between the homeowner and the contractor. It is not, the town is not involved in that part of it. What we help to do is oversee the program, but they are actually responsible. When they hire this contractor, they must deal with that portion of it. What we do is go in and make sure that the work is done properly. Eventually, most of them get paid in increments as work is done. The check itself is made out to the homeowner and the contractor, so the homeowner has to approve it. But they also have to know that the town is watching this, and we're making sure that the work is done up to that point. They can't just say for some reason they didn't, they don't want to sign off on the check. So we're very careful about that. I think that's about it. Any questions about it?
I imagine $300,000 goes pretty quickly.
It does, yeah.
How was the determination made about
About who
About
gets
who gets it and who gets how much?
Well, we tried to do it by how the applications come in, and that's what we tried to do the last time. But in the interim, what happens is someone will need a furnace, or they'll need a roof, they've got terrible leaks. So we really have to address those kind of immediate issues before we go on to someone who just would like new windows and siding or something. you know. And as I said, it's income-based. We're very, very strict about that. And there are a lot of people out there who really need it. It was extremely helpful before.
It's a very highly regulated process between HUD and DECD. HUD's got its own set of regulations. DECD's got some further regulations, so it's a highly regulated process that we have to follow. And then we get audited at the end of the process, and so far our first two audits have shown they came back with no findings.
They were perfect.
They were perfect, yeah.
Tony did a great job on it, yeah.
Can you just comment about the income eligibility, just the parameters of that? Do you have any,
Actually, I don't know them off the top of my head, but it's on the
or
brochure.
just as a ballpark?
For one person, it's 45.5.
Single person?
For two, 52.
Okay.
And you'd really be surprised how many people fall within that range. We don't, when you do this, it's based on their income tax or social security, whatever it is that they're going to report to us. We do not take into consideration, as with other programs, what they have in the bank. They just have to provide the interest as part of their income.
So it's strictly on their income?
It's strictly on their income.
And so how many of these grants has the town received?
This is our third grant of
So this would be
300,000.
900,000.
And we've done everything from, one woman only had $1,400 worth of work done. She needed a slider and a window or a door fix. But we had some that were, what's it, 45,000?
Right.
We had one that was 45,000.
And we've been paid back for two of them.
Yeah, we've already been paid back for two. Yeah.
So then it revolves, it's a revolving program. So as the funds are paid back, then it's then used again for another applicant.
Right. And the money that's paid back is not deducted from the grant that we're getting. So that's extra money we have to use this year.
And what's the deadline for filing an application? No.
I didn't really set a deadline, because I can tell, once I get, the fellow from Wagner comes, who's going to be part of our program, and we start going through them, I can tell there's some people who sadly aren't going to qualify. So we'll keep it open. And a lot of it is word of mouth. People will start having their work done, and neighbors will come and ask them how they're doing, and that's what happened the last time. We got a number of people just because they saw what was happening in the neighbor's house.
Susan, Jennifer?
I'm just curious, if you pull a permit, the assessor comes out and reassesses your house for any change of value. I assume that happens here,
You can.
correct?
Yeah. For the most part, the people that we had, the last two grants, didn't have mortgages. The problem was they didn't have the income to take out a mortgage to pay to have these things done. I mean, a lot of people fell into that category.
No, I'm talking about whether or not the property taxes change as a result of improvements.
Oh, that could happen.
Right.
Yeah, but when you need a new roof, I mean...
No, of course,
Yeah.
no, I'm not, but you know.
But ironically...
But in other words, they're not exempt from having.
Right. Ironically,
or
most of these
assessments or
people
anything else.
are on our program, are on our senior program.
Right.
Actually, probably, maybe at least half of them were, I think.
Okay.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, thank you, Pat, for doing that.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks.
So, the next item on our agenda is the Public Works Building Committee, and I don't believe they're going to be here till 7:20, is that it?
Correct.
Something like that? So, why don't we just continue on with the agenda with the Director of Finance and Operations report? And the first item on here is the monthly report.
Okay, thank you. Your monthly report is through October of 2012, and the report shows a budgetary surplus of about $18,000. Some of our, that would be a fund balance of 4.64 million, or 11% of the budget for the end of the year. Some highlights for you. The town received a one-time revenue distribution from the revenue sharing grant of a little under $60,000 from the state. So that's a revenue that we did not budget for, that we will receive. We have met, I'll get into that later. In the department revenue, there's for the fiscal year ending July 2013, there's a shortfall projected by the golf course of about $70,000 this year. We will update that as the year progresses and as the season begins in the spring. Some of the others we've discussed. The workers' compensation has a deficit of a little over $50,000 due to the heart and hypertension claims. So we have a deficit in that line item, and there's a surplus in amity of about $85,000. And finally, we've met preliminarily, a few preliminary meetings with FEMA concerning Hurricane Sandy. And because this is our third time with this process in about a year, we've been pretty good at it. So we know what they're going to ask for and how to file it and what applies and what doesn't apply. And so we've begun collecting that information, and we'll be ready as soon as we get the green light to apply. But they've already met with us and have indicated that the usual stuff will apply here, including overtime, debris removal, supplies, that sort of thing. So we'll let you know if we have more information.
Any questions on the monthly report?
Yeah, under the liability insurance, what do you mean
We have
a shortfall in?
what happens, we didn't budget enough for it. We cut the budget later in the year, and I think we cut it a little too much. It didn't increase all that
Is it an
much.
increase in premium?
No, it was just, I think it increased slightly, but we anticipated it was to be maybe more of a flat premium, and it increased a little.
Oh,
But I
okay.
think we cut the budget too much, essentially.
And then the 70,000 from the golf, where's that coming from?
That's the golf revenue is part of, that's part of the general fund revenues. So it goes into the same equation as, intergovernmental revenue, department revenue. It's all part of that general fund revenue section. So at the end of the year, it reflects in the contribution from or funds to fund balance. So if you're 70, that's would be ultimately goes into fund balance or is taken from fund balance, depending on how the whole year ends up in terms of all the departments. It's part of that large equation because it's part of the general fund.
Okay, could I just follow up first on what Tom just asked about the Country Club of Woodbridge? This month, I believe, concludes their promotional period, so there's a likelihood this number will change by the end of November, right?
It's early in the year, so a lot of that will correct as the...
But to answer your question, yes, the initial promotion for next year ends on November 30th.
Correct.
That's still, but it's next year's membership, but it's this budget year. So
Correct.
Yeah.
Right.
And then the next thing, just a quick question about the intergovernmental revenue.
Mm-hmm.
The revenue sharing grant from the state, is that from the sales tax?
Correct. Yeah. And that came in August. We weren't anticipating it. It just sort of showed up.
Yeah. Thank you.
So,
Okay, any other questions or comments? Okay. Next item under your report, your tax refunds. And we have in the packet a report from Pat Crisco, our tax collector, that there are motor vehicle refunds of $7,924.65 as outlined in the report. So I entertain a motion to approve those motor vehicle refunds.
I'll move.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously. Next item is award of bid. Funding request, excuse me, funding request. The first funding request is line item transfer number 1213-07, $2,000.
This is a request from Human Services to purchase some tires that they do not have budgeted for in their repair and maintenance of vehicle line, so it's a transfer from another line in their budget.
So I'd entertain a motion to approve line item transfer number 1213-07, the amount of $2,000.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously. Next is line item transfer number 1213-08, $3,164.
The police department has changed their caliber of ammunition from 40 to 45 caliber weapons, and therefore had some ammunition that they no longer needed. So the ammunition was sold to another department, and that was for $3,164, and they're requesting use of that money to purchase holsters for their new weapons.
It's holsters and lights?
Lights.
What are those, like flashlights?
They're light,
Well, if you watch TV when they go like this, there's a light on the gun.
Oh, light on, kind of like a
right, that's my understanding.
It's a laser.
laser. Oh, okay.
Why do they need more, what's the significance of going from 40 caliber to 45 caliber? Does anybody know the answer?
I don't know the answer, unfortunately.
I don't know any gun, but that must have been a lot of ammunition.
All right, that's what I'm thinking. All right.
We can get you an answer for that.
We could, yeah, but they don't have,
We don't have an
wait
answer.
to purchase it if you want.
I mean, I don't want to, it's not out of curiosity. I mean, I do want to know, but I don't necessarily want to hold this up. I mean, I want them to have lights. I don't want them to be all dark and holsters. I mean, that's not a good thing either, but, you know, just somebody to
We'll
find
get you
You can
out.
find that out,
We'll
sure.
get it.
Well, so far, all we're doing is receiving.
No, they want to transfer it to buy these holsters.
So they sold a town asset, okay? So we received the money. You have to then appropriate that money to purchase it.
It's all happening in one? Okay.
Well, they didn't, yeah, so they want our permission to go out and buy the new holsters.
Right.
With this
Right.
money.
Because we have to transfer it into their line item.
The funding for that is a result of the sale of these.
Right. Correct.
Do we make that motion? Because
I'm just asking for it right now.
I'll make that motion.
I'll
All right.
second it.
Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Passes unanimously. Next is line item, or funding request, I'm sorry. Funding request number 1213-09, $15,700.
Okay, this is the, and there's a bid later on in the package which will explain this. This is to do all the internal piping in the buildings for the natural gas conversion. And while we were able to pay for the equipment or the burners with the savings from oil to gas, I'm not quite sure that that'll happen with the piping, so that's why it comes from contingency. And then the timing of it and the pricing and all that.
That was my question about it. I thought.
It may, in which case we could always transfer it back, if that's the case. If there's some savings.
So we're doing 4 buildings. And are there
Right.
any others we have to do?
There's actually 2 in the center, and then 1 in Town Hall, 1 in the library. And then there's the one at
Right.
the one in the new firehouse is gonna require a little more investigation and a
Okay.
little more,
So that's the
Work, so
new
that'll be-
firehouse, and what else is left after this?
there's a service for the new public works facility
Okay,
and for the old firehouse, both
gotcha.
of which are in the capital projects.
Okay. Thanks.
Okay, so I'd entertain a motion to approve funding request number 1213-09, the amount of $15,700.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously. Next is line item transfer number 1213-10, $14,785.
This is a transfer in the police department. Just a little background here. The town has uses a third party to administer our IT and computers. Okay. The police department had a staff member who has since retired, who used to do that as an additional duty. And So we reviewed this whole operation with the police department and decided that it was much more efficient to have the same firm do the police department in the town. And we've already realized a lot of efficiencies here, and to have two different methods. So as a result, the person that was a network administrator dispatcher is, the funding we were able to get the funding from that line because the difference between a regular dispatcher and a network administrator dispatcher was more than what we anticipate our funding will be for the third party to help us to administer our computers. They're actually a Woodbridge company also.
So the person who was doing it is retired?
He's retired, right?
Retired.
So are we planning on replacing that?
Just a
position?
regular dispatch. Well, that's to be determined. That was the,
But the excess that he was being paid to do both jobs was that amount,
Yeah.
$14,800.
Paying for dispatch and for like IT.
right.
So that's when you go over to the same.
It'll go to the IT,
Okay.
right. And then there was still money in the budget to hire a dispatcher, which was part of his function.
Okay. But
That's
this
the route we decided.
14,785 is the IT piece.
Portion, correct.
That
Right,
employees.
Right.
Salary, okay.
correct.
As we move into the planning phase for FY14, I'd like to see us consider this as an ongoing
The consolidations you're in.
consolidation.
Yeah, definitely.
Right, sure. That'll be our, that's our,
At least,
that's our idea.
at least at first glance.
Yeah.
Right, I agree.
So I'd entertain a motion to approve line item transfer number 1213-10, $14,785.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion?
So we don't.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously. Next is bid number 2013-03, natural gas piping.
Okay, so as I indicated earlier, we went out to bid for piping of natural gas. We had 6 firms interested, and the high bid was $37,850, and the low bid was $15,700. So
Quite a difference, isn't it?
there is, and you'll see there's, and everywhere in between,
Yep.
as you can see from the results. So after a lot of investigation and due diligence on behalf of the low bidder, including reference checks and checks up at the state for the OPM, DAS for if there's any findings or any problems with the firm. We could not find any. So working with our maintenance department, we are recommending Crest Mechanical at $15,700.
Okay, so I'd entertain a motion to award the bid for natural gas piping to Crest Mechanical for the bid price of $15,700.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion?
Yeah, my only concern, I'm certainly not complaining that we're paying a lot less.
Right.
But even to the next lowest, it's 6.
We tried to really make sure that we had apples to apples here.
And I know, I did my own little bit of research on them, and they do a lot of work with Travelers, they do a lot of work
Oh, is that right? Yeah.
Hartford with a lot of big companies, UI, I think they do work with UI. But I'm just concerned that $6,000 lower than the next lowest bid and half of the highest bid, that I just want to make sure that we're getting everything we would be paying for with the highest bid.
Right.
And we are?
We are.
You're comfortable?
I'm comfortable that we did a scope review and that we're getting what we're paying for.
Okay, any other comments? If not, then all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously. Next is bid number 2013-02, library carpeting.
Okay, this is in something that was in the budget, and we went out to bid for library carpeting, and we received actually only 2 bids for this. And we recommend that, I reviewed this with Todd, the library director. Todd did a lot of work on this also, and was very involved, and the chair of the library commission was also at least discussing with Todd. And the library plans to carpet the stairs, carpet tile the meeting room, and carpeting on the reference area. So those are the 3 items that are in the budget here at $2,200 for the stairs, $4,600 for the meeting room, and $4,400 for the reference area. Now, there were some additional per square foot pricing on the carpeting at $3.39, and that's just because of the difference between the budget and where the pricing came in. There may be some opportunities to carpet more than just the little strip section. If those of you familiar with this topic know what I'm talking about. And maybe carpet a little more of the downstairs while they're there. So it looks more, so that's the plan.
So I'd entertain a motion to approve bid number 2013-02 library carpeting to Carpet Works of Manchester, Connecticut, as outlined in your packet.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously. Next is debris management, contract with Ashford.
And we have Warren here in case you have any questions. But as part of our ongoing debris management system here at the town is recommending and requesting that we contract with Ashbrit. Ashbrit is under state contract. It's being used by several towns in the area to assist with debris management, including site management of debris collected, grinding of debris once it is collected, and essentially make 2 passes through the town for those who put their debris on the side of the road. And as part of this process, the State of Connecticut contract allows for a Science Applications International cooperation actually, to provide independent monitoring of the loads as they come in to make sure that the loads are appropriately sized and priced. So is there per cubic yard. So I don't know if you have any other comments, Warren, about this process.
Also, we had the opportunity for disposal of anything that they grind under their contract.
So it looks like we've already entered into an agreement with them?
Not yet, no.
That's why we're here tonight.
That's why we're here.
This is effective November 5th on the back, is that?
Oh, that's just when they send it, but we haven't signed anything.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So my only question is, looking at the,
And they do all the FEMA, it's a seamless FEMA, they do a lot of the FEMA paperwork also. That was one of the,
so, okay, well, my concern, I mean, you're just looking at, 6 to 12 inch diameter trees, it's like $210 each, or it's greater than 48 inches, it's $1,200 each. I'm sure that each tree, or is it each
I think
piece
that
of
would
wood
be
that they
removable
cut?
from standing trees that might have like hanging debris. I don't believe it's anything to do with brush removal from the ground.
So, do we have any idea at all what this is gonna cost me? My only concern is that, granted, there's gonna be some FEMA money available, but it's not gonna be 100%, it's gonna be a percentage of something, right? So, we're gonna have to come up with the 25% or 15% or whatever that percentage is, and not knowing
depends what percentages. Yeah.
Pardon me?
Yeah, right, depends what the percentages could be.
So if they're a lot, they pick up a lot, and it's really good, it's to their benefit to get as much as they can. It's to our detriment for them to get as much as they can as far as how much money we're gonna have to pay as a part of the reimbursement. So do we have any idea, I mean, what other towns have paid or what our potential liability could be?
Bethany just contracted with them, Fairfield is contracted with them, because they do other types of management of debris, like demolition homes, appliance collection, so they remove beach sand from roads. They're a large East Coast-based company.
Right, but do they typically come this far up, because they're based out of Florida?
They've been here, they've been working in Connecticut for Irene and the storms of last year. We didn't have enough volume generated by those storms to warrant the interest. We did the collection and used local contractors. At present, the town staff has been working on the storm, well, except for last weekend. We've been working continually from the storm. We took a break during the snow, and then we're back on it, and we'll probably finish any contractors that we've engaged locally. Their services will terminate on Friday. But because we're doing the residential collection, gonna be generating much more volumes of debris than we normally, and we'd be the recipient of that debris anyways if it went to our transfer station. So the cost of processing that and the hauling of that material would still be passed on to the town. So I believe that there's a benefit to the town by engaging the company and then with the FEMA reimbursement. So the 25%, let's say, if that's what the portion is, you'd probably be paying that portion anyways.
So, you think this would cost the town less than it would with independent
Overall,
contractors,
for
local
sure.
independent contractors?
Yeah, well, the upfront cost is higher because they work on a cubic yard basis. We do too at the transfer station. But what we're collecting off the streets, to quantify that, and then we have to process it, and then what do we do with it after it's processed? The other benefit, as Tony stated, is they do all the filing with FEMA. We're not burdened with the documentation. They do it for us.
So in the end, it'll cost us, you anticipate it costing us less?
Yes. And you have to look at what's out there. In previous storms, we weren't out there collecting from residents' properties. If the resident gets that material brought to the roadside, we're doing a service to the residents because I believe that the volume of debris generated from this storm is far greater than the 2 storms of last year.
I agree with that.
And you said you're gonna make 2 runs through the town?
They make 2 canvases of the town.
And how will we let the townspeople know when and
It's already posted that they have until the 24th of November to
posted?
bring out their debris to the roadside.
It's posted on the town website or posted where?
I believe it was posted on the website. We've had other communications. Residents know about it.
In my communications with the residents, I mentioned that on several
Right, the
occasions.
Everbridge.
My tape
We'll
ran out.
repeat it again.
I didn't hear the end of your message, my tape ran out, I'm
Okay.
sorry.
We'll just repeat it again, that everyone should have the materials out at the roadside by November 24th,
Okay.
and then that will be picked up accordingly after that date.
Right.
And there'll be 2 runs.
So this is why we're seeing these nice stacks of sticks by everybody's driveway right
Right.
now, because they're
It's
waiting.
not
for-
artistic, right?
I was wondering, okay, so it's,
Some of that, and some of it was just a normal removal process that we had to push off the road, just to open roads.
no, this is much too organized for that. Believe me, this is like, they're building forts out there. Okay, thank you.
Okay. Good, thanks.
Okay, so I'd entertain a motion to approve the contract with Ashbridge for debris management in the wake of Hurricane Sandy as outlined in Tony's memo of November 9, 2012, and as amplified by Tony and Warren Connors.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion?
Just to follow up on what Tom was saying, I think we probably all share your concern about the expense to the town, but the town has already, has waived brush fees at the transfer station because of this event, and it's regrettable, but the town is going to have to absorb some expense for storm cleanup as a service to residents.
All right, okay, any further comments? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Passes unanimously. And then there's final bid here is a request for bid waiver on a Ford F-350 pickup truck.
The department is requesting a bid waiver for a Ford F-350 pickup truck under the state of Connecticut contract number, as you see it indicated there. And the vehicle is from Interstate Ford. And the amount is $30,295.40. And that's our request. It's part of the ongoing vehicle replacement plan. Has some details there in the attachment for you.
And there's a slight difference in the bid of $90.40. It's actually $90.40 higher than Crowley Ford, but apparently the town's past purchasing history with Interstate Ford is good.
Does this have a plow on it?
I believe it does, for that amount.
The 9 HD Fisher Minute Mount?
Yes.
Okay, so I'll entertain a motion to approve request for bid waiver on the Ford F-350 pickup truck as outlined in Cindy Pecca's memo of November 7, 2012.
So moved.
I'll second it. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously. It's now 8 minutes after 7, so we'll take up public comments at this time. Any comments? Yes.
Should interject something?
Sure.
In regards to the tree removal. Greg had some comments about the trees and the pruning with the UI. If you saw what happened during this storm, most of the trees were probably 70 to 90 feet tall. They fell from one side of the road to the other, and they were well off one property into the other. UI pruning won't address that under any conditions. And most of the trees that snapped during this storm were of a variety, they were all pines. And I'm getting inundated from phone calls that residents lost their power and the inconvenience of access to their property and things like that. To remove these trees, which were planted on the town right-of-way, to have these trees removed because they don't want to go through this again. Now, live trees are a low priority for us because we have an active list and we're engaged right now with contractors to remove what we deemed as hazardous or threatening trees from our roadways. None of those trees on the list fell during this storm. They were either uprooted trees.
Let's look at that list again.
They were either uprooted trees or live trees that just snapped in half. The top of the tree literally came down, blocked the road, took down wires, snapped poles.
It's incredibly random, it seemed, this year,
I have
with this last storm.
a great photo library if anybody's interested
You're
in
right.
seeing it.
Tom,
I've
yeah.
been around and tried to get to as many locations before the roads were opened up. And you have to see the size of some of these trees.
Right.
I mean, we're talking trees that are 5 foot in diameter.
It was incredible. I mean, I was out there like 16 hours straight, and some of these trees were just snapped. And then a smaller tree next to it, not even
Not
moved.
touched.
And I can't explain it, but like you said, I think the trees that came down with this last storm were a lot worse than what we've seen in the past. And true to your point, is, what Greg was saying, these trees were going from one yard across the road into another yard, and there's no way you can plan for that. There's no way there were obviously some that fell that took a wire down that probably could have been trimmed at some point, but I'd say the bulk of the trees that I saw down or on houses were trees that would not have been taken out in any type
Ordinarily,
of...
those wouldn't be the ones that fell. They uprooted or they snapped and fell onto homes.
The one right down on Amity Road by the
Right.
blue check fell right into the
If anybody
house.
saw that, that would be a prime example, but that would be by something that I saw, that was a small tree.
Oh, yeah.
So, and again, the property owner would be unsuspecting if the tree's that far from the road that it would block their driveway, hit their home, or fall across the road. The utility company does due diligence by having a repetitive program just to keep the circuit of the envelope around the wires clear, but the clear sky that they talk about gives them greater access, but it won't stop the tree that's off on private property that's 20 or 30 feet into someone's yard from falling down onto the wires of the poles. And the problem is when it lays on the wires, it might take 2 or 3 poles out down the street. It's not just the pole where it lands. And homeowners, some of the trees I've seen, they had problems internally inside the trees. You get the right conditions, and this is an exception to the rule. We don't see this. It's abnormal. We had two storms within, let's say, 6 months of each other. This is not the conventional thing. We just went through the state drill not so long ago for this very type of condition. And you can't mitigate it, but you, as Ed stated, a follow-up to see what we can do better to aid us on the recovery side later on. And that's the only thing we can do. For those residents that don't know it, we are in the development of a hazard mitigation plan within the region of the Council of Governments. And there is a link on their website and on our website. If anybody wants to take the survey to participate. Any kind of storm conditions, snowstorm, nor'easters, floods, anything that conceivably happen, and they're welcome to comment, add their input as residents of the town.
Okay, thank you, Warren. All right, the next item under Director of Finance and Operations report is adopt resolution to authorize the first selectman to execute documents to receive state grant for the Public Works Garage. And the proposed resolution is in your packet. I'd entertain a motion to approve that.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion?
Yeah, I just had a couple of questions. I'm sure it's a boilerplate. I'm not going to change it.
You got to approve this resolution, right?
But I'm just curious why on page 9, the whistleblower protection law provision was omitted, intentionally omitted. And similarly, the negative pledge use restriction provision was also intentionally omitted. Just curious as to why those two were, based on what they're designed to do. It seems a little odd that the state would be specifically pulling those out intentionally. I just don't understand that.
Well, that was omitted by the state of Connecticut, not by the town of Woodbridge.
No, I understand. I'm just curious as to why
I don't know the answer to
the
that.
state would omit two laws that they've instituted. It doesn't make sense.
Good question. I don't know. We can find that out, though.
Could you?
Sure. Okay. So, again, I entertain a motion to approve that resolution.
So moved.
Is there a
With the
second?
provision, can we check into that? Well, I guess it does,
Yeah, it doesn't matter that much.
It just bothers me that they will.
That's a good question. I agree, but, we want to move forward with this. This is for $25,000, this
I understand.
grant. We'll get you the answer to that.
Okay.
All right, that was Beth and Sue, oh, Beth and Mark.
Okay.
Oh, yes, I have it.
All right. Okay, so any questions, any comments? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously. Next is a regional purchasing cooperative, natural gas.
This is more of an FYI, but the town of Woodbridge is working with Amity and the Woodbridge Board of Education and the town of Orange and the Orange Board of Education, and we're looking into a regional purchasing cooperative of natural gas. And we have actually did an RFQ for a broker to assist in that process. And so we hope to have, we received probably 6 or 7 responses, and we hope to have the broker with pricing for one of your future meetings. So we're looking to lock in that pricing also, as we do with heating oil and diesel and gas and all the other commodities that we use.
Okay, any questions? The next item is the ground monitoring, water monitoring program, 1999 UST release.
Well, we are now down to, we were previously down to 3 wells. This is for monitoring of groundwater in the back of Town Hall from the gas leak spill from 1999 from the Public Works. And we are now down to 2 monitoring wells. 1 monitoring well is being suspended. So we have 2 monitoring wells remaining.
Where are the 2 that are remaining?
And they're right on the map here.
I couldn't make it.
Didn't figure it out either. They're not defined as MW14 and MW3. I'm going to find them.
Says it on here, let's see, 14 and 14D are right, they're right in the back here. And they're the closest to the spill. I have it on a different map than this one here. Let's see. I don't know which one it is.
We're going from 3 to...
3 to 2.
Center
So
Road?
It has to do with the amount we put in the budget for monitoring. We'll reduce the budget further.
Well, yeah, it's good that we're eliminating wells that are no longer, I was just curious, are they on Center Road, are they?
I honestly don't know, I have to get that for you.
We'll get that for you.
Yeah, I'll have to find out for you.
Behind the town hall.
They're typically behind Town Hall.
Yeah, I think they're behind the town hall.
Okay, if you can just find out that.
The good news is that
Good news is that the
DEP has
rate,
approved this.
yeah, they're allowing us to take one off the list.
They are,
Right.
Correct. We'll get you that information. Okay. And then do we have anything under other?
No, I do not.
Okay. That leads us then to the town council's report.
Yes.